Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here in Denver, Colorado. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for being part of your beautiful and fabulous evening on a Wednesday night. We've got so much really to talk about. Super Bowl 58 is around the corner. We're almost towards the weekend where the Chiefs and the 49ers will square off. We're almost there to it, but we got a lot really to break down and talk about, but I'm excited for it. NBA trade deadline is tomorrow. That's going to be interesting to watch for sure, and I can't end up waiting for that. And we're fresh off the NHL All-Star game. Lots of great festivities. It was so much fun, and I always love watching it too when it comes to the NHL All-Star game. Lots of different competitions, and then of course, I don't really care too much of the All-Star game itself, but it's fun to see a lot of our stars on the same ice. So, all right. So I was talking about this before, but I'm bringing this up because, of course, the topic of it is Mike Vrabel. I've been talking about Mike Vrabel now for the last couple of days, almost near a week. And again, I think he was obviously a snub of the head coaching job. It's no secret. Everybody pretty much knows they're all missing out on one of their top candidates at head coach. So now the truth comes out as to why Mike Vrabel did not end up getting any of the head coaching jobs. I would have considered the Chargers, but it probably would have been at least a small hire. And then I would have considered Washington. I would have maybe considered New England or a bunch of other places. But the reason of this is as to why Mike Vrabel never got the job is because his size and his build was intimidating to many franchises that they did not want to give him the job. What the hell? Are you kidding me? This is your excuse? God, I thought the NFL was smarter than this. I thought a lot of NFL owners was smarter than this. Apparently not. We're kind of seeing the worst of this. Okay. Listen, Mike Vrabel is a very smart head coach, and he's taken Ryan Tannehill to the AFC Championship game. Okay, Vrabel knows what he's doing. He's strong. He's alpha. He's a guy that is a guy. He's a player's guy. He loves getting along with a lot of these players, trains them hard, and makes sure that they don't give up on any down, any plays, or any snaps. That's who Mike Vrabel is. If you have a problem with him being so vocal and being so strong and tough and alpha, I don't know what to tell you. But Mike Vrabel fits the part of being a legit NFL coach. I don't know what the problem is. I don't see why people are missing on him and are thinking that he's just that intimidating. I don't see it. Listen, yes, he's strong. Yes, he's stocky. He was an NFL linebacker, for God's sakes. Okay, I don't understand this narrative. To me, I feel like you're going to get a great asset who, if you find him intimidating, wouldn't you want that in your locker room? Wouldn't you want him to intimidate other opposing teams? Like, seriously, I don't get it. And think of it this way. We're making an excuse for this, but yet we're okay with Jim Harbaugh, who was a former quarterback, head coach. He's strong. He's alpha. He's true to himself, and he's very authentic to his brand. I mean, he won a national title at his alma mater. You think a lot of players would say, Jim Harbaugh, he was soft. No, he's tough. He's hard. But he is a guy that is willing to win. He doesn't want to underachieve. That's why I'm like, that's ridiculous. If we ever thought that about Jim Harbaugh, that would just be a bad look. Look at DeMeco Ryans, former NFL linebacker, has been with his organization as a player, and now he's there as a coach. And he has a rock star quarterback in C.J. Stroud. We don't complain about him. Will Anderson seems to be working fine there in Houston, and all the players love DeMeco Ryans. They love the fact that he's tough, he's alpha, and he's also somebody that gets along with the players. That's what you want in your player personnel in the locker room. You want a guy that's your juice, the guy that amps you up anytime that you're down a few scores. This is ridiculous. We don't say anything about this with DeMeco Ryans, and he's a former linebacker. So what's the excuse? What have you got to basically have against Mike Vrabel? Like, there's nothing. Mike Vrabel took a Tennessee Titans organization, made them tougher, made them stronger. If you watch the defense, like I said, if you looked at a lot of his defensive rankings when it came to situational, like third down, fourth down defenses, they're great. They are great. None of his players give up on plays. They play hard, they play tough, and they play for every single snap to where they get the ball possession back. I don't understand this narrative. I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's a great, tough coach. I mean, hell, if he's tall, stocky, and he's intimidating, I would want him on my team. I would want him as an asset. I mean, think about it. If you are in your business and you're trying to go for the job you've always wanted, and they basically tell you, well, you're too intimidating. Your size, your build, your stockiness. The hell? Wouldn't you want that? I could be intimidating to a lot of your competitors. My voice, my sports almanac mind, wouldn't you want that? I could be intimidating to a lot of competitors. I mean, especially with a lot of analysts, it would be feeling like the ground is shaking. Wouldn't you want that? It would make your competition much more simplified, and it would make it much better. Because in the end, you already know who's trying to go against you. And at the same time, they got nothing to fight against you. You're already blowing away the competition. I don't get it. I feel like Mike Vrabel, again, I have friends of mine that are basically similar build, if not bigger or taller than Mike Vrabel. But I have them as assets for a few reasons. One, it's resources. One, it's basically, hey, I could always use protection. I could always use a really, really good right-hand man in case of some stuff. I could use that. I could utilize it. But this is just a ridiculous narrative. I cannot believe it. And you're in the NFL, for God's sakes. You are in a violent sport as it is. You're getting tackled. You're getting fights. I mean, you're suffering injuries. What's the problem here? It has to be something against Mike Vrabel. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this discussion. I think Vrabel, you have him as an asset. He's going to give you toughness. He's going to reshape your culture. And he's also somebody that fixes one side of the ball. So when he goes and gets a smart offensive coordinator, he's fixing on the right side of the ball and is leaving that trust to the offense. He's leaving that there. I mean, think about it. It's like I said, if there were teams that I know that could build toughness, it would be Buffalo and it would be Philly. If those two teams those coaching jobs opened up, you don't think Vrabel deserves a call? You don't think Vrabel would literally come in there rattling somebody's cages or, make the ground shake? God, I would want that. I would want a guy that has a personality that I know can train my guys better and make sure that they play harder and they play tougher. I'm not looking for them to seek injuries to others, but I would rather them play hard than play with no heart. So I think Vrabel does deserve that shot. But it's, as I've said before, it only is a certain amount of time. But I still think if that Buffalo job, if that Buffalo job is open, I think if it's legitimately open, you don't think he deserves at least a chance? He could trust Josh Allen, and he could trust that offense is going to basically play well, and they're going to run hard, they're going to pass smart, and they're going to really, really toughen things up in that division. Okay. I want to talk Denver here for a second. I think this is a good time to basically reflect upon what's been happening with the Broncos. Okay, the Broncos season sums it up in a few words. Is that it's become combative, and it's also become something where it's been a sinking ship that they've been literally plugging away all the holes that seems to be getting water into the ship before it starts to sink. Sean Payton was hired for a few reasons. One, to fix Russ, one, to reshape the culture, and one, to bring hope to Bronco fans that this team can get to the playoffs. That's what Sean Payton has always been about. You may not like Sean Payton's attitude, like his coaching mentality. You may not like it. You may not understand it, but it still is something that helps to build a winning team. Russell Wilson, in the last few years, you could obviously see there's a decline there. Okay. Again, I don't think Russ is washed, but I do think there's a slight decline. Whether that came from, Seattle knew about it early on with Pete Carroll and John Snyder and everybody else in that building, whether they knew it early on, or maybe it's because Russ, he got paid all this money, he's sitting on it, and then, his wife's making a lot more than he is with all those deals, and then also maybe potentially moving him to Vegas with the Raiders, seeing if he matches that culture. There's been a lot of rumors about it. It would be a slam dunk for Sierra. But all I know is that for years and years and years, I've watched the NFL, and I've followed up amongst a bunch of teams' histories. The Denver Broncos, to a certain extent and honesty, they do not like drafting and developing quarterbacks. I don't know what their problem has been the last few years, but they don't like drafting and developing quarterbacks. They don't give them a fair shot. The last time, and Bronco fans know this, that they have drafted and developed a quarterback was a guy named John Elway. Still, you still respect him. You still love him. Because you drafted, developed him, a kid out of Stanford, that this kid was going to obviously be a really good quarterback prospect, and he has been like that for years. Whether that was during the Orange Crush, or maybe it was during the days when he made the Super Bowls. He didn't win them yet until later on in his career. But that was the last time you drafted and developed a quarterback, was John Elway. Everybody else, if you look through the list of what Denver quarterbacks who basically have come into that building and have basically been drafted and developed, there's been not a whole lot. Maybe Brian Greasy. That's it. All the quarterbacks, I could have a long list of it. But the quarterbacks off the top of my head that I know that are not drafted and developed in this organization: Jake Plummer, Kyle Orton, Teddy Bridgewater, Peyton Manning. There's so many different quarterbacks that were up and on this list, but those are the four that I could think of right off the top of my head. Joe Flacco was another one. The ones you drafted and developed, you had no faith for.
That was Drew Lock. That was Paxton Lynch. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I might have it wrong if people can correct me, but Trevor Siemian, maybe? He was another draft and develop. The funny thing is that you drafted and developed Jay Cutler, but shipped him off early to Chicago. Now he's a Chicago great quarterback next to Jim McMahon. So my point is that Denver is so scared and they don't like to draft and develop quarterbacks. I don't know what the problem is. But listen, the NFL's not perfect. Quarterbacks are not perfect. If you drafted and developed a quarterback, at least giving him the fair shot, maybe he might turn out to be a superstar. But look at what the draft is giving you. It's giving you Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Jaden Daniels. There might even be a couple quarterbacks that are in the middle of that mix. But you clearly can't stand Russ. You clearly don't want to deal with Russ. So you want to ship him up out of town, get a trade, get some draft picks, but it's only going to take as much as it takes for him to get out of town. It's not going to be easy. Denver made these mistakes. First of all, you traded Russell Wilson for Russell Wilson. You paid him early without even hitting the field and actually seeing how he produces. You then hire a coach who was clearly off his skis, and apparently Aaron Rodgers seems to be defending him so much that he's not exactly an NFL head coach caliber. He's not. Nate Hackett is clearly not the guy. And then says how great of an offensive, innovator he is. Come on. I'm not playing this manipulation crap. Nate Hackett was clearly off his skis, doesn't even know how to do clock management, and at the same time, it was making Russ decline drastically. Now, in comes Sean Payton. They go to make it up, and Russ did look a little like himself, not so washed, but the relationship seemed combative, and it seemed so rocky. It's rockier than the Rocky Mountains out here. But Russell Wilson, to an extent, I know what a lot of people are thinking, and I know exactly what I'm going to say. But this relationship doesn't work. And Denver's got great players. They've got really good players. I like that Dulcich kid that I think is going to be really good. Greg Dulcich, he's going to be really good. It depends on how Tim Patrick's health is going to look like next season. But I could trust Cortland Sutton. I can trust Jerry Jeudy. I could trust Marvin Mims. I could trust at least, Patrick Surtain. So all this stuff for Denver, you've got to make it right. But you have the coach. The coach is not the problem. Your problem is your quarterback. I liked Russ at the time in Seattle. Once he drastically declined, it was not the same. Not the same Russell Wilson. It's making now Denver look bad in their own division, where now you have Jim Harbaugh in LA with the Chargers and Justin Herbert. He's probably primed to go on an MVP year. Then you've got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and then you've got the Raiders knocking on your door with Antonio Pierce. So Denver has a lot to think about throughout this offseason when it comes to the free agent market, when it comes to maybe possibly making trades. You may have to give up at least some pieces, and then you've got the draft. Because to me personally, if you really, really cannot trust Russ, and at the same time, you're kind of fed up and done with it, yeah, you could push hard for a trade. From what I was told from a lot of sources, they were saying from March, they might consider cutting Russell Wilson. You might end up having to do that, and you may have to eat that dead money cap. But hopefully they've learned a lesson, because it was a massive mistake. You paid him early. You didn't even get a chance to see him out on the field and see him perform until then. Once he got his contract extension, it looked bad. It looked bad. You got Sean Payton screaming up into his face, not making the plays that he should. And look, he's not obligated to explain why he's screaming and yelling to Russell Wilson, but maybe there is a reason. Maybe there's a reason for it. It's a push. I don't know. But I just think this year with Denver was just so rocky. It was combative, and it did not look like it was in sync. I don't think it's anyone's fault. But I think this is just the reality of it. But I do think that the front offices, and yet they did get rid of their GM and got a new one. They got to fix this mess. And Sean Payton is literally looking at him like, look, I didn't create this mess. You've got to fix it. You went and traded for Russ. You gave him an extension early. Now you got to make this up. Now you got to get this better. Because trust me, I mean, I live here now, but if I'm watching, in Denver, if I'm watching over there at Mile High Stadium and I'm just like, I look at this offense and this offense looks stagnant and it doesn't look like it's scoring more than 25 points a game, there's a problem there. I don't think it's the weapons. I don't think, bits and pieces of it. Could be the offensive line, but at the same time, Russ just doesn't look like himself. So I think the best thing that you could possibly do is maybe go and draft a quarterback. Maybe go ahead and light up some fire in the locker room. Oh, I don't know. You could light it up at camp, OTAs. I mean, think about it. Could you imagine if Bo Nix was there in Denver? I think Bo Nix would thrive. I think Bo Nix would be really, really good. Michael Penix, he's strong in the pocket. He's not afraid to throw the ball, and he throws a beautiful pocket passing ball. He does. He's a pure thrower. But this is where Denver really has to think about it. But I think if I'm being honest, this Russ-Sean Payton relationship is so combative and rocky, it doesn't work. And I think you really have to give that up. But at the same time, don't be afraid to draft and develop a quarterback. You haven't done this since John Elway. It's okay. Sometimes you may whiff up on a quarterback, but who cares? I mean, I wouldn't feel that embarrassed. I mean, think about it. You got San Francisco who whiffed on Trey Lance, but they got Brock Purdy. Maybe. There's quarterbacks that are going to whiff. It's hard. It's hard to really determine if they're going to be superstars right off the bat. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to see with these quarterback lists. Maybe I might see Drake May not even be his best. Maybe there was somewhere in the scouting report that nobody told me about. I don't know. It's unpredictable. But you got to trust your gut, and you got to go with, okay, I have a really good offensive weaponry. I need to fix up a little bit of my offensive line. I may have to give up some defensive pieces, but making sure they stay strong. And then I'll be able to get the quarterback that can make everything work. I mean, think about it. It's like a well-ran oil machine. You got to make it work. You got to make it work smoothly and efficiently, because sometimes little knickknacks and creaks, I mean, it won't work well. It's just an accident, and it's a collapse that's waiting to happen. But I think Denver really needs to do the right thing, and I think honestly, drafting and developing is your best option. All right, good stuff. I mean, seriously, I have never seen the Denver Broncos really take that much time in drafting and developing a quarterback. I never have. Not since John Elway. They tried this with Jay Cutler. They traded him away early. They tried this with Tim Tebow. He clearly doesn't work. They tried this with Drew Lock. He clearly doesn't work. He looked like a reach pick. And then they tried this with Paxton Lynch, and Paxton Lynch was a bust. Don't be scared to go and draft and develop a quarterback, because you never know. And especially now when you have the right head coach right there at the wheel, he may end up drafting him the best way he can. You've got the coach. What are you waiting for? What are you afraid of? It's not a bad thing to go and draft and develop a quarterback, because you don't know what you might find there. You don't know what you might have. You've got the offense. What's the problem? But I just think it's wild to me. It's crazy, but something to really kind of look at and pay attention throughout the offseason. Good stuff. All right, I'm going to be taking a break here. Coming up next, I'm going to talk a little, because I haven't talked NBA in quite a while, but we know that there's been things brewing up in the NBA, the Clippers being one of them. I'm going to explain a little bit more that we should be taking this year's LA Clippers seriously than what we have in the past. I think they finally clicked. We started to kind of question a little bit, but you know what? They actually look a lot better, and they look a lot more fluent than we thought. So that's more coming up next. All right, you guys. Well, as I've said before, the show is sponsored by BetUS. BetUS sponsoring the show. Absolutely love BetUS. They have the best bet lines choose from. If you're looking for prop bets, if you're looking for parlay bets, single straight bets, BetUS has you covered. They've been doing this for over 30 years. The best bet lines you can look for. BetUS also has you covered not only on their sports book, but they also have entertainment with casino games, from blackjack, poker, and also some slot play. Whatever your fun that you're feeling, BetUS has you covered on all sorts of fun, interactive games that you can win and get paid on. When you sign up, 200% bonus when you deposit $50 or more. Don't forget about that. $50 or more, you're getting a bargain with 200% back. And it's also 30 risk-free bets as well when you sign up. You don't want to miss out on the opportunity because we know Super Bowl is right up around the corner. I know a lot of people are going to end up making some prop bets. The prop bets are great. And also, look up at the money lines, over-unders, favorites, underdogs. It's great right now. Don't miss out on the great opportunity at BetUS.com. Link is in the description. BetUS, where the game begins.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sportsway Network.
Snake Sports Talk Show is sponsored by Muscle Tech, with hundreds of supplements and vitamins to choose from, all packed with 100% all-natural proven ingredients. You can be sure that Muscle Tech will give you the edge and the boost to train and look like your fit and healthy best, whatever your goals are. Try Muscle Tech today and use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save 30% off your purchases.
Key Williams at Dante Criswell star in 7200 Seconds podcast Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sportswave Network.
Don't lose your seat today when you use the most trusted ticketing app. SeatGeek, they got you covered on hundreds of events to choose from, whether it's you're attending the Super Bowl, last big sporting event in the NFL, or whether it's going to see your favorite artist at your favorite concert venue, or maybe going and seeing your favorite comedy show. Whatever your interests are, don't lose your seat with SeatGeek. And when you sign up, and when you check out, use promo code SNAKESPORT for $20 off of your first ticketing purchase, as a way of saying thank you for using the most trusted ticketing app known to man. SeatGeek.com. Download it also on your mobile device through Google Play in the App Store. SeatGeek. Don't lose your seat with SeatGeek. Promo code SNAKESPORT. All right, so I really have been... I haven't been talking about NBA that much, obviously because the NFL has been so great. The ratings have been out over the roof. But it has been fun. But there has been a lot of narratives. I keep up on it all the time. Like I said, I listen to sports radio every morning like it's my morning coffee. I can't get enough of it. People may think I'm like just addicted, but you know what? It's obviously good nuggets for me, especially when it comes to doing the show. So recently, the LA Clippers, and for years and years, watching this team, we watched them since Lob City. But the fact is that the NBA, as I've said, I try to cover it as much as I possibly can because the NBA I grew up in was very physical. It was also one that was very determined. I grew up with guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe and Shaq and many, many more, even Tim Duncan. These were guys that were winners. They were champions. These are guys that have wanted to win. But for me, the Clippers, right now, they currently lead the Western Conference. And my God, this is the best looking Clippers team I think I've ever seen in a long time. Listen, we've watched Lob City with the Clippers, with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, Jamal Crawford, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick at the time. There were multiple really good players. But even that team of Lob City couldn't quite get the job done because what were they good for? Chris Paul was much more of a distributor, and when he got open shots, sometimes he'll take the shots or maybe sometimes he'd go and pass again. He was more of a ball distributor, and I'm okay with that with a point. Jamal Crawford, in my opinion, I kind of viewed him as he was like my sixth man. Okay. He kind of reminds me, and I'm sure a lot of people might backlash for this. I might get it, but I think Jamal Crawford is honestly like today's Chris Middleton in Milwaukee. Okay. I think he's a real good shooter. I also do think that there are some cases where he can defend the wing, but it wasn't strong enough. And he was a guy that you relied on when it came to shots and points. Too heavy for him. That's why Chris Middleton, he's got Giannis, he's got Dame, he's got Brook Lopez, he's got all these guys that can bring up all the defense. Chris Middleton does not have to feel like he has to be the guy. That's what Giannis is. Giannis is clearly Milwaukee's franchise. And Jamal Crawford, he was like a six man to me, almost like a Lou Williams or maybe a J.R. Smith. But either way, he was giving me important points. DeAndre Jordan, what was he good for? He was good for rebounds. He was good for second chance shots. And he was also good for somebody that was just a defender. But even so, there were some inconsistencies of DeAndre Jordan that didn't quite work either. And I even remember the time when they had Caron Butler as their power forward. And again, I thought he was solid, but he was not somebody that was at the very least an elite defender and could very much spread the floor. Then there's Blake Griffin, which people seem to have basically invested more in. Than honestly, when I looked at Lob City, I think they should have just stuck to Chris Paul. Blake Griffin was about the show, the lights, slam dunk contest, all of that. He wasn't somebody that was, built to be a winner. No matter how many times that the Clippers and Lob City basically made it in, it was still the same result. It was an early playoff exit. This Clippers team now, and look, we've criticized a lot about Kawhi Leonard. I've never had to criticize Paul George once because I know what I'm getting with Paul George. I'm getting a shooter, and I'm also getting a wing defender, an elite one. But the criticism was mostly on James Harden and Russell Westbrook because we know Russell Westbrook loves to be hyper athletic, and we know that James Harden, he's more ISO ball, and he likes to have the ball in his hands all the time. But I think the Clippers, what's different about them this year compared to the Lob City year is that I think for one, I think they've hit on the right head coach with Ty Lue. He was the same exact Ty Lue as he was in Cleveland, even with LeBron. But the fact is that Ty Lue, he's been around the NBA. He's been around a lot of superstars, and he clearly knows exactly basketball. He has a really good basketball IQ. He knows what a champion team looks like. And to go from that to being a Clipper head coach, where you've got Kawhi Leonard, who's probably going to be taking days off for his health. And sometimes we ended up questioning that, whether or not if that's a lot of load management. But I think part of that is I think Kawhi really kind of monitors his body as close as he possibly can. Then there's Paul George, elite wing defender. Kawhi wanted him. They pushed for it. Steve Ballmer pushed for it. And Jerry West, old school, absolutely loved it and trusts Kawhi. So they went and got him. James Harden bounced around the league from OKC to Houston to Brooklyn to Philly, and now he's here in the Lakers. He's here with the Clippers, but now he doesn't have to feel like he has to be the guy. And he's starting to realize that. It's the same thing also when it comes to Russell Westbrook. For years, I thought Westbrook was selfish. I mean, we watched every single one of the quality players, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kendrick Perkins. We watched a lot of quality players out of Oklahoma City leave, and Westbrook was just the guy. They'd get to the playoffs, but they wouldn't get further and further in the playoffs. That was the reality for Oklahoma City, and it was the reality for Russell Westbrook. That's why they needed a change. Now, for Russ this year, for Westbrook, he looks a lot better. I think at the same time, he's also starting to come to realize, look, I'm getting up in age. I can't really be hyper athletic that much all the time. But what are you getting with him? You're getting a distributor. I'd say you're also getting somebody who puts pressure on the opposing 1-2 guards. And at the same time, it's allowing for guys like Kawhi, an elite defender, and it's allowing for a lot of their other pieces to basically work and mesh together. The other thing is, too, I mean, you've even got a wild card in Ivica Zubac. Okay? A guy that can basically do his job, getting rebounds, getting second chance shots, be a defender, and be a guy that's going to obviously keep the possession on the Clippers side of the ball. This is a team that we should be taking seriously that could be into consideration. They could end up appearing in the finals. I'm not putting in there that they may win it, but they could appear in the finals. It's fair enough because honestly, you look at the Western Conference right now, and the West, I mean, you got OKC, you got Minnesota, you got Denver, you got Sacramento, you got Phoenix, you got the Pelicans, the Mavs, the Lakers, and the Jazz. The Warriors are clearly old and they've got to rejuvenate. I mean, it's kind of past this. But a lot of these teams, they're young. The Rockets are young. The Blazers are young. The Spurs. I think part of this is, Greg Popovich. They don't have a big time star, but they do have Wemby, and they're young. You also got, Memphis. Memphis, John Morant gets hurt. They're not the same team. There's not a whole lot of energy. There's not a whole lot of this stuff. But if you look at the Western Conference, it's quite possible. The Thunder, they're young and they have a really good bench. Jazz are young. Dallas, overly reliant on Luka Doncic. And I think some of that they kind of take for granted. The Kings are another young team, but they're starting to develop and coming into their own. But if there's any team that could probably give the Clippers fits, but I think it would be a great series, would be Denver, Phoenix, and the Lakers. Everybody else, they're young. Hell, the Timberwolves are young. And I know they still have Karl Anthony Towns, and I love watching Anthony Edwards play. But still, it's a young team. And these are guys that are veterans. That's the difference of it. You've got to have a mixture of young and old. And I think the Clippers have exactly the right guys. I mean, hell, they fooled us all. They showed up, and they play, and it clearly works. Ty Lue, quality head coach. We didn't really kind of think this much with James Harden and Russell Westbrook. We thought that this was a disaster, a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. But clearly it works. And you know what? I could be okay with saying they could be a finals contender. I don't know if they'll win it, but I think it's fair enough. They should be a finals contender. All right, let's get to the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right, so some news kind of spring around, but one of the news is as we're kind of going for it, Houston Astros is one of their big news as well tonight. The Houston Astros early on have re-signed Jose Altuve to a 5 years, $125 million contract extension. Altuve, who has been with the club since 2011. He's been the best when it came to extra base hits, on-base percentage, and not to mention, too, he's only getting better when it comes to hitting the long ball. Jose Altuve, I will say this. I watched him in his debut in 2011. I thought this kid was going to be a slap ball hitter, like he was going to be a leadoff guy. He's clearly grown a long way since he's been with him. And at the same time, team had tanked. They went and got drafted. They went and got quality players. But at least the best thing they could do was basically for a few reasons. One is he clearly is the heart and soul of this organization. The only player I could not stand was Carlos Correa. That was it. I didn't have a problem with Altuve. And look, that 2017 championship, we're past that already. We know it was, people will say it was a fluke, and, all the rest of it, like they were cheating and all the rest. But again, Altuve is a great guy. Small. What were the chances Altuve was going to be successful? A successful kid out of Venezuela who knows how to hit the ball, and for his size, field second base cleanly like he does, and then all the rest of this stuff. I like Altuve. But the philosophy that the Astros have is that they're not into these massive contracts like Shohei Ohtani or, a Mookie Betts or, Bryce Harper's of the world. They're not about those 10-plus year contract extensions. They like to be simple with their philosophy. Either 3 or 5 years. That's their max. Okay, I'm sure they're going to give a 5-year contract to Alex Bregman at some point. But I do think Altuve is the heart and soul of this club. And they're not going to – he's going to be an Astro for life. And he's already going to be breaking massive records. I mean, there's a lot of it. But I think in a lot of justification, Altuve is who you'd want in your lineup. Seriously. I think this is – it's great news for the Astro fans because the fact that your longtime Astro, he's there to stay. He's getting to the postseason every single year now. And there's been chances, there's been multiple chances that they've been getting to the World Series. I mean, look, I was asked this question. Who's the most hated team in sports? The Kansas City Chiefs or the Houston Astros? I would say it's honestly the Kansas City Chiefs because there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of mocking, and there's a lot of taunting. And I think, honestly, the Astros, yeah, they have this scandal, but I think most of that is, they got rid of George Springer. They got rid of Carlos Correa. And all they had is they had Alex Bregman, they had Yordan Alvarez, and they've got a lot of really good quality bats. These guys could clearly work. And so, to me, I don't think this stains Jose Altuve's career at all. I honestly don't think. All right. So, funny thing of it is, so now the Washington Commanders, I'm going to get into that here in just a second. But the Washington Commanders, they welcomed in Dan Quinn as their head coach, but the other person they welcomed in is offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, who apparently withdrew the Raiders OC job and is now going to be coaching the Washington Commanders. Interesting turn of events. But that means Eric Bieniemy is now unemployed again. But who knows if he's going to honestly get an offensive coordinating job. I thought there was a couple of real good places that Bieniemy would be able to fit in. But it's kind of crazy. And a guy that has basically come around from a Kansas City offensive coordinator who really, really worked with this offense and made him probably arguably the most explosive offense. But the fact of the matter is that the enemy, quality coach, at some point you're going to give him a head coaching job because I want to see what he does. I want to be able to see that if he still continues to innovate this offense. Seriously. I think it's been long overdue. It's been a long time for it. But I think in honest retrospect, I mean, the Cliff Kingsbury hire, who knows? Who knows if this offense is really going to work? But I think part of that is that there's ties to this because you're the number 2 overall pick. Who knows what Chicago's going to do with their pick? But at the same time, there's Caleb Williams that is there, and he is very close with Caleb Williams. Who knows if this is honestly going to work? But again, Washington, they clearly needed a defensive guy, and they clearly needed somebody that's going to help to innovate because they don't. It feels to me they are definitely going to draft a quarterback after Sam Howell. I mean, I like Sam Howell. I just think that the unfairness to that is he just didn't have the right offensive line. It'll be interesting to watch, though. But again, I think this will be great to see Washington because especially in that division alone, Cowboys, the Eagles, and, I mean, the Giants are the Giants. They're going to basically do whatever, but at the same time, it's going to be interesting. But so some news in the Super Bowl, of course. Brock Purdy, as you know, is going to be going against Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City Chiefs greatness. This will be interesting for Brock Purdy at the same time. He had not had the best performance in the playoffs all throughout the playoffs. The wild card, divisional round, and the championship. He has not had the best performances from there. However, he is big on overcoming adversity. And so one of the questions that they asked him was about Taylor Swift. Basically mentioning if he's ready to disappoint Taylor Swift. And he said, with a brief answer, yes, he is. Interesting stuff. But again, Taylor Swift, the latest of it is that she's on tour. It's going to be a hard, long, flight to even try to get into Vegas and try to root for the Chiefs. So it feels like it might be very less likely she'll even be there. But Brock Purdy says he's ready to, disappoint, and he's ready to give the San Francisco 49ers their 6th Super Bowl franchise history, hoping that Kyle Shanahan will destroy the narrative that has literally stuck and scarred to him for a very long time. So, all right, folks, that was your Hot Press.
This is the Hot Press.
We're going to take another short break, but when we do come back, I'm going to explain this about the change of heart with Cliff Kingsbury moving from the Raiders to the Commanders. It's going to be really interesting. I don't know what particularly happened, but I'm sure there was something that was up in the front offices that may have changed his opinion on it. But again, sometimes it changes for some coaches, but who knows? It'll be really, really interesting. But I think there might be a little bit of a breakdown of what might happen. All right, folks. Well, if you guys don't already know, the Snake Sports Talk Show does have their own merchandise website. Get yourself geared up for your favorite show on social media and all around the YouTube platform. Snake Sports Talk Show merchandise is here with all the best, latest, and greatest gear and all the best that you could buy from T-shirts, hats, hoodies, and so much more. Go online. Link is in the description for the snakesportstalkshow.com with their merchandise catalog. You don't want to end up missing out on that. Keep yourselves up to date as well for future promo codes, free shippings, discounted codes, and so much more. snakesportstalkshow.com. That is the merchandise website for you to get yourself geared up, show off your favorite show here. snakesportstalkshow.com. Shop online today.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Robert Lyle hosts Between the Lines podcast, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on SportsWave Network.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Back here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Good to have all of you guys here on this beautiful and lovely evening as we're almost close to closing out the show. But we got a little bit more here to talk about. So, Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know what ended up happening in the front offices. With the Raiders at the time when they said that he may have gotten that Raiders job. So I can answer your question. The teams I root for is I root for the Chargers. I don't have a team for the NBA. WNBA, love the Aces. Major League Baseball, love the A's. Not necessarily big on CFL and soccer, but Chargers, Aces, and the A's are my favorite personal teams. But NBA, I'm just more of a player fan. But I love Klay Thompson, and I do like Kawhi Leonard. But so Cliff Kingsbury. It was kind of interesting. Now, I know a lot of people have actually questioned a lot about how does this guy still have a job after the stuff that he had in Arizona? I mean, but here's the thing. You could be a great coordinator, but be a terrible head coach. A lot of people have been shamming on Cliff Kingsbury, basically saying, you've won nothing. You haven't won squat. Just as bad. Just as terrible. You had Patrick Mahomes and you couldn't even get him to a ball game. You couldn't even win a bowl game. Nobody gives a rip what happens in college. Seriously. Nobody gives a rip what happens up in college. Unless you're Kirby Smart or you're Jim Harbaugh or you're Kalen DeBoer or you're Dabo Sweeney, nobody cares. Okay, college football is fun with a lot of narratives. And Cliff Kingsbury, yeah, he had Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. But at the same time, we didn't even see a whole lot of Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. We care about the Patrick Mahomes now in Kansas City, but we didn't pay attention to the Texas Tech. I don't want to hear people say, oh, yeah, I did watch him in college. I thought he was great in college. No, you didn't. You didn't watch him up in college. Let's not lie to ourselves here, because I didn't either. But Cliff Kingsbury, from the sound of it, again, he's an offensive innovator. And again, he did at the very least get the Cardinals to the playoffs. But part of that was you got to see how invested Kyler Murray is. And at the same time, I've been preaching this for Arizona for a very, very, very long time, and it's the offensive line. It's piss poor. It's not great. They can't defend. And at the same time, I think the defense has gotten a little bit flat. Isaiah Simmons now is gone, and there's uncertainty now with Budda Baker in the franchise. And so what do? You got to be able to fix this. You got to be able to fix Kyler Murray to get him focused, because I get it with the injury. You got to rehab it.
There's no point in playing injured. But at the same time, you got to fix this offense. You got to fix this team. I love their promising tight end, Trey McBride. I think the kid is really, really good. But again, Cliff Kingsbury, just because he did not work as a head coach, doesn't mean he couldn't possibly work as a coordinator. The thing about Kingsbury, and maybe this is what Dan Quinn wants to build. He wants to build smarts, toughness, passion, and grit. Look at Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson in Detroit. I mean, the one thing that I think kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way was when Ben Johnson, what I felt like with him, he didn't want to take the Washington job because of a few reasons. That they felt like the Josh Harris group and a lot of people like Magic Johnson and all of them, they're basketball guys. Who cares? Magic Johnson, don't you realize that he's an owner of the Dodgers who's getting to the playoffs every single year? And they've won their division pennants almost every single year. And they're in the World Series at some points. They've even won one during a COVID year. I mean, the guy's got billions of dollars. Who cares? I don't care where they came from. All I care about is, do they have the dough? Can they produce the dough for me to go and get players? That's all I care about. Again, Ben Johnson, what he could have ended the narrative on is like, look, I want to go back to Detroit. I think there's unfinished business. I'll take my pay raise, but we want to make this team bigger, better, and stronger than ever. And here's the narrative. They're a great first half team. They're not great in the second half. So maybe that's a narrative you should have ended on. Not so much of clowning on Washington, saying that they're a bunch of basketball guys that don't know football. Who cares? They've got money. They can spend. But I think the part of the narrative with the Josh Harris group is they see Dan Quinn as he's somebody that's an alpha, somebody that's strong, somebody that basically wants smart guys in the building. So I think Cliff Kingsbury, and a few of those reasons is that I think, yeah, a new environment and a new home is better for him. But at the same time, he's not dealing with the Kyler Murray crap. He's not dealing with, a horrible offensive line. This offensive line is decent. You can add a few pieces. But Dan Quinn can handle the defense. That's it. You could just handle the offense. But the biggest part of this is that Cliff Kingsbury has close ties to Caleb Williams. And again, Caleb Williams' camp, not big, but they announced they're skeptical about Chicago. I would be too. Chicago's not big on pivoting to offense. In fact, they're always big on defense. They haven't gotten rid of that old school TV that every year always shows monsters of the Midway. They love their pass rush. They love the blitz. They love their defense. It's all about offense. You got to pivot to offense. But we've seen this with quarterbacks. They don't want to play for certain teams. Eli Manning didn't want to play for the Chargers. That's why he went to the Giants. John Elway, at one point, he did not want to end up playing for one of the organizations, so he went back to Stanford, and then he gets drafted by Denver. So this happens. But I think part of that reason with hiring Cliff Kingsbury, and again, I don't know what happened in the Raiders' office. Maybe there was something that might have happened. But now the Raiders get Luke Getsy. But I think part of this reason with Cliff Kingsbury, to end on this note, is that he's close with Caleb Williams, knows about Caleb Williams' strengths and his abilities. Maybe that is part of the push. But again, if this thing don't go well with Chicago, then Washington is right behind them. And he could go back home to his hometown. Go and play for the Commanders. You got an offense. You got weapons. You got a run game. You just need a couple of pieces of offensive line, and then you can fix up the defense. I mean, they lost both their pass rushers, but it doesn't mean they can't go and get more. So I think Washington will be in the best. They'll be in the best position. I don't have a doubt at that at all. I think part of the reason with Washington, you really, really have to see it close in person. And for God's sakes, can I stop hearing about, the hat on backwards crap? Seriously. I hear it all the time from Cowher. But look, if you're bringing attitude into the building, if you're bringing toughness, you're bringing something that's going to hype up the players, much like you watch Dan Campbell be, passionate and be a guy that's emotional and wants the team to win and you got the right smart guy as an offensive coordinator, I'm not saying Eric Bieniemy was not smart, but I think part of that reason is the time must have came up. But I think ultimately, you look at Cliff Kingsbury, you're hoping that this thing works. But I think part of this reason is it's pivoting to where this is added ammunition, maybe potentially to go and get Caleb Williams if Chicago's not willing to pull the trigger. Sometimes that does happen. But again, I think the Commanders, they need to rejuvenate. They need to get a better defense. They need to get an offensive line, and they need to get a quarterback because they got to compete in their division. Again, the Giants look like a tire fire, but hopefully Brian Dable can save them. But at the same time, it's like, come on. Philadelphia, they're playing a mulligan with Nick Sirianni. And then the Cowboys, they're hoping that, Ron Rivera will help them with their defense, over Dan Quinn. Come on. Dan Quinn was the heart and soul of that defense. Micah Parsons feels it. Tony Pollard just found out that he's now the coach of the Commanders for some odd reason. And so there's a lot that's at stake. And that NFC East, I'm keeping a close eye on it because I think it's going to be really, really interesting. But I think, honestly, I may look at a different version of Dan Quinn than the one that I got in Atlanta. I mean, he was tough in Atlanta, but I think there was parts of it he still had to learn. Maybe this is the time to shine. But, I think about it. Outside of the Chargers, this was a top gig. New ownership, new GM. Now you got a new head coach. Who wouldn't want that? And you got the number 2 pick. You could get your quarterback. You could get your quarterback messiah who could basically help with this offense. You got weapons, Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. You could maybe go and get another receiver, but there's options. And they're willing to spend the money. So, think about it, man. I honestly think there's always different layers and different versions to coaches. Maybe the version for Cliff Kingsbury is he's a better coordinator. And maybe the version for Dan Quinn is he learned a lot since Atlanta. Maybe that's it. Exactly. And the same thing. Harbaugh coupled with Herbert. Exactly. You better look out there because the AFC West is going to be shocking. So, again, you got to get good pairs. But I think this will be interesting. If they get the right quarterback, I'm just saying this, but if they get Caleb Williams, Philadelphia and Dallas, they got some competition there. And finally, that'll be better for them. Seriously. All right, folks, that's going to do it here for me on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Appreciate every single one of you guys for being with us tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time in your night to hang out with me. Like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell button. We're on the road to 1K, guys. We are trying to get there to 1K, and we really want it so bad. So share it out with your friends, share it out with your coworkers, share it out with your family, whomever. Make sure they don't miss out upon the show. We got great takes. We're going to have more interviews tomorrow, and this should be very, very exciting to watch. So the show is sponsored by BetUS. When you bet more than $50 in your deposit, $50 or more, you'll get 200% back on your bonuses when depositing 50 or more and 30 risk-free bets. Link is in the description, betus.com, BetUS, where the game begins. And also by SeatGeek, don't lose your seat when you use the most trusted ticketing app on the planet. SeatGeek has you covered with your next sporting event, concerts, live shows, and more. When you use SeatGeek, use promo code SNAKESPORTS to save yourself $20 off of your first purchase of your first ticket as a way of saying thank you for using the most trusted ticketing app in the market. SeatGeek.com is where you can find it. Also download it on your mobile device through Google Play in the App Store. SeatGeek. Don't lose your seat with SeatGeek. Promo code SNAKESPORTS. See you later, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show.